Death on the Nile is both directed and stars Kenneth Branaugh alongside Armie Hammer, Gal Gadot, Emma Mackey, and so many more. Detective Hercule Poirot's Egyptian vacation aboard a glamorous river steamer turns into a terrifying search for a murderer when a picture-perfect couple's idealistic honeymoon is tragically cut short. This film is the follow-up to 2017's Murder on the Orient Express, both films based on Agatha Christie novels. And I'm not gonna lie, I have neither seen Murder on the Orient Express nor have I read any of Agatha Christie's novels. But I did see the Doctor Who episode with her in it. So that counts, right? But I'm not gonna lie, despite my Agatha Christie lack of knowledge, I actually was looking forward to this movie. I thought everyone in the cast were great actors, and I am always interested in a good detective story. So, the question of the hour is, was this a good detective story? Yeah, it was not half bad. There are problems, sure, I didn't love the movie, but for what it was perfectly enjoyable. So let's start off by mentioning and getting out of the way the first great thing about this movie, both the star in front of and behind the camera, Kenneth Branaugh. As Poirot, he is incredible and the character is just as brilliant as the performance. Even as a newcomer to this character, in our first introductory scenes with him, we instantly see that he's ungodly observant, meticulous as hell, but at the same time not without some humanity and a sense of humor to him. And Brana is so charming as the character and so instantly likable, but when he has to be cold, calculating, and threatening, he can put on a mask of just cold anger and a walk of pure hatred and commanding presence. My God, I loved this character and I loved this performance. And along with his performance on screen, his work off screen as the director is magnificent. This is one of the most beautiful movies I've seen so far this year, and I'm pretty sure by the end of this year, it's still going to hold that rank as one of the most gorgeous. From the costumes, to the staging of the shots, to the multiple long takes, the latter two making full use of the Egyptian Nile setting, almost every shot in this movie is picture perfect and so satisfyingly symmetrical. But even though Brana is the star of the whole show, everyone surrounding him in the cast is almost just as fantastic as he is. Everyone plays the typical late 1930s yuppies perfectly well, but they also add in their own personalities to the roles. It's fantastic, and you get to see their personalities whenever, after the murder happens that you all see in the trailers, each one, when they're being questioned by Poirot, they each reach their breaking point with his detective levels. And you get to see them break from their usual yuppiness and get to see them in their raw, primal anger. It's fantastic performances all around. But because this is a detective story, the big make or break of this movie is, does the mystery work? And in my opinion, yeah, I loved the mystery of it, and I thought it was ungodly intriguing. Throughout the entire film, we constantly overhear dialogue and actions that Poirot also observes. So right when we're introduced to these characters, we feel like we're investigating this case just as much as the detective. Everyone's a suspect, and you truly do get the feeling that it could have been any one of these people. And when the villain is revealed at the end, when you put all the pieces together, it really does make sense. But are there problems? Yeah, of course there are, mainly due to the fact that a lot of detective stories have similar problems, and this film is no exception. For one, because you're always looking at the supporting characters as suspects, you never get the feeling that you know these characters. Just like there's always a barrier between Poirot and the people on this boat, you also get the feeling that that same barrier separates you from getting close to them. So even though the performances from everyone were fantastic, the characters and their memorability weren't. And because the characters weren't as memorable as the lead, this also runs into a big problem as most other detective stories. That being, once you find out the mystery and the movie's over, there's no real sense that you should go back to watch the film again. Because you're always on high alert from the suspect from minute one, and because everything is laid out at the very end when the villain is revealed, it all makes sense, and you don't really get the feeling that you need to go back to look at the building blocks because you get the feeling that you've been watching the building blocks already and the pieces were brought together by the reveal. Don't get me wrong, it's not this movie's fault necessarily. I mean, you have to have a obscene amount of talent, director-wise, cast-wise, writing-wise, to make a mystery movie rewatchable over and over and over again. It's just that for as talented as everyone involved with this movie was, they just weren't super talented that they were able to jump over that storytelling hurdle. Along with that, there are also little things like the sheer amount of foreshadowing and red herrings weren't that subtle. The green screen in a lot of scenes are extremely obvious, and I feel like this movie was a bit too quippy at times. It made it feel more modern and less like a book or story or movie that was written in the 1930s. But with that said, this is far from a bad movie in any sense of the word. The performances from the entire cast were fantastic, the film's visuals were absolutely stunning, and I was always 100% invested in the story, mystery, and reveals. It's not this film's fault necessarily that the same problems I have with a ton of other mystery detective stories I have with this mystery detective story. It's just a genre thing. But if this is your genre, then this movie is totally your thing. I'm going to give Death on the Nile a B. Well guys, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments down below, what's your favorite mystery/detective movie? For me, it's a more recent pick. Knives Out, in my opinion, if you want a movie with perfect casting, perfect writing, and just perfect direction, and is perfectly rewatchable even when you already know who the culprit is, it really is Knives Out. That is the gold standard. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are the best. Don't forget to click subscribe down below and click the bell icon to stay up to date on all things movie, all things TV, all things nerd.